Hello and welcome to yoga. Today's practice we're going to be using a chair. You have some time, you can go get a chair if you don't have one handy. You don't need to take your shoes off for today's practice. Just a few ground rules for yoga. This is Joyful. This is Yoga with Joyful. If I invite you to do something that doesn't feel right for your body, please don't do it. The goal is that we get up off our mat, or in this case our chair, feeling better than we did getting down. We're going to look at a lot of movements with breath. And today's practice we're going to be mostly sitting. It doesn't mean that you're going to be resting. So it's time to start traveling again. You know, I'm traveling a lot, and hopefully you all are getting to travel too. And traveling for me involves a lot of sitting. So I need to have tools that I can use when I'm sitting so that I don't just turn into a potato. Joy's gonna help. What a good kitty. So today's practice, we're gonna look at some movements that we can do while we're still sitting in a chair. Some movements that we can do with a cat in your lap. But the majority of them I'm going to have to evict the cat. So find yourself a chair. Find a comfortable seated position with your feet underneath your knees, thighs straight in alignment with your hips, sitting away from the back of the chair. Shoulders hang down. Again, you don't need to take your shoes off for today's practice. This is sort of a practice that you can use. It's an anytime practice. So you can do some of this stuff, you know, when you're sitting in a doctor's office waiting, or I'm in airports a lot, so that's a lot of sitting and waiting. I'm in planes a lot, and that's a lot of sitting, more or less immobile. So I want to be able to do some things that are going to help my body stay comfortable and functional, so that when it's time to move, I can move. So rest your hands on your thighs, close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Allow your pelvis to come into a neutral position. Find your two seat bones. Allow your arms to be heavy, so your shoulders hang loose. Your neck is stacked on top of your rib cage. Chin is in a neutral position, not sticking out, not pulled in. Find your breath. Allow your belly to be soft. Hands are relaxed on your thighs. Thighs are soft. Hips are soft. Just finding your balance. Grounding through your feet, grounding through your seat bones, allowing yourself to be fully present in this moment. And notice that this awareness you can take with you no matter what scenario you're in. So you're waiting in a doctor's office, you're waiting in an airport. You can just sit quietly and find grounding, even amongst the busyness around you. You can have your own peace that you take with you. Open your eyes, interlace your hands, arms overhead, opening the rib cage, gently moving from side to side, grounding that opposite seat bone. Opening that opposite side rib cage. Really staying grounded through your feet, grounded through your seat bones. Enjoying that opening. Feels pretty nice. And notice that this is a very simple movement. and release. Place your hands on your thighs again. Soften your shoulders. Now we're going to repeat that same idea, but keeping your hands down. So just opening that opposite side rib cage, opening that shoulder, looking upward, grounding the opposite seat bone. Now this movement is more powerful with your arms upraised, but notice that this is a variation you could do in the doctor's office. And come back to neutral. Allow your hands to come behind the chair. So I have my arms hooked on the back of the chair, and I'm drawing my shoulder blades together. So usually we do this with the hands clasped, and if you wish to do that, you may do that. I have my hands open. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm allowing the back of the chair to help me arch my back, looking up, chin pushes out, heart opening, really feeling very open in the front of the body, belly pooches forward. Chin is up. Back of the neck stays long though. You don't want to compress the back of the neck. Look, this is still a very simple movement. And release. Bring your arms back to neutral. Now left hand to the right knee. Right hand behind you. And again, I'm hooking it on the back of the chair. Not for a lot of leverage, but just a place to rest. Simple twist to the right, originating inside the belly, inside the pelvis, coming up through the low back, into the upper back, and completing before it gets to the neck. So my neck stays in a neutral position. And I can use that left hand for a little bit of leverage. The object is not to get into biggest contortion you can possibly manage, just to begin to open the spine in a very loving kindness way. And then release, come back to neutral. Isn't that interesting? That's such a simple movement, and yet it's really pretty profound. It's fairly deep. Right hand to the left knee, left hand behind you. Just a simple little twist to the left, leaving your head out of the twist. Low back stays pretty neutral. This should not bother your low back. And if it does, for sure, soften your twist. Release, come back to neutral. Rest your hands on your thighs, close your eyes, and just notice how you feel. This is a very simple opening sequence, and yet it's fairly powerful. And open your eyes, walk your feet close together so your knees are touching. This is going to be a different twist. This is a little bit more in the upper back, shouldn't bother the low back at all. So I'm going to take my left elbow on the outside of my right thigh and just rest that shoulder down towards my knees. So I have my right hand on my thigh as support. Knees stay pretty close together. So I'm pushing upward a little bit with that right arm to help that upper back revolve a little bit more. So this is an opening for the outer left shoulder also, but I'm primarily looking for a twist or opening in that upper thoracic, upper rib cage area. So this would be a seated version of thread the needle.
So as I stay in this pose a little bit longer, I notice that my body opens a little bit more and I can come down a little bit lower. And again, we're still not looking for your biggest, baddest twist. It's just a gentle opening. And then press up slowly.
Isn't that interesting? That's really pretty powerful. And then taking the right elbow to the outside of that left knee.
Left hand is on the left thigh for a little bit of support. Maybe some leverage, but there's no need to really push this. Noticing how one side is different than the other. That's very normal. And press up.
Both hands on your thighs, close your eyes, notice how you feel. Isn't that interesting? These are very simple movements. Very simple, yet they're pretty profound. And open your eyes. I'm going to take my left hand with the palm up, bend the elbow, and place that palm on my shoulder blade. Take the right hand and I'm going to rotate that arm a little bit towards, so the elbow comes towards my face a little bit more. And then I'm going to help that elbow come up a little bit more. So this would be part of the arm position for Gomukhasana, cow face pose. And this action is not one that we do very often in regular normal life. And as a result, it tends to be a little bit tighter action. So you're going to be very gentle with yourself. Again, there's no need to push. And then very kindly let that arm come down. Rest, shake it out. Shake out both arms. Right hand palm up. Palm onto that shoulder blade, turning that upper arm a little bit so the elbow comes a little closer to your face. That right hand is reaching for that shoulder blade. And then with great loving kindness, invite that arm to come back down. Both hands on your knees, on your thighs. Close your eyes and notice how you feel. It's always important to check in after doing an action and see what the impact is of that action. So this practice is very slow anyway. You can open your eyes and just noticing what the impact of each activity is can help you ascertain the value of it in general, and particularly the value for your own practice. Okay, so now I'm going to take my left ankle to my right knee, flexing the foot to protect the knee. And I'm just going to rest my arms wherever it's comfortable and just allow that outer left hip to open as much as it wants to. So this would be a seated version of pigeon, part of pigeon. And this is actually an important component of pigeon, is opening that outer hip area. And just like, you know, when you do the Gomukhasana arm part, it's an action that we tend not to do very often. And particularly us girls, I was taught as a child, this is how men sit. Women never sit like this. Girls never sit like this. And I grew up in the 70s and we had mini skirts and I would not sit like this because mini skirts. But I don't wear mini skirts anymore. I do wear a lot of skirts and dresses, and if I'm in an airport in a skirt or a dress, I'm not doing this. But I have on britches right now, and I can do this, and I am still being, modest. So if this is super easy for you or okay, you can come forward any amount, recognizing that none is an amount. And any amount that you come forward is going to increase the opening on that outer hip. I don't need to say that because you've already discovered that. Keeping the foot flexed to protect your knee. And now walk your hands back, lean back a little bit, and with great loving kindness, untangle that leg and let it come back down. And wiggle around a little bit. And notice how your two hips feel. They should be different now. Well, let's make them more even. So take that right ankle to the left knee. Flex the foot to protect your knee. And you can come forward any amount, recognizing that none is an amount, that's fine. Just allowing that right outer hip to soften and open as much as it's interested in doing. Certainly we don't push stretches like this. The hips are surrounded by dense, fairly inelastic soft tissue, ligaments and tendons and fascia, and because they're relatively inelastic, they don't stretch easily. Now, the good news is, once they stretch, they tend to stay stretched because they're not elastic. What happens when I sit in furniture for, hours a day, these soft tissues become tight and they don't release themselves. Again, they're not elastic. So it behooves us, it behooves me to invite this release, elasticity on a regular basis so that I can remain as pliable in my body as possible. I have some age. I'm hoping to have a lot more age, and I want to be comfortable in this body as I continue to mature. All right, with great loving kindness, release that leg, let both knees come back together, wiggle around a little bit, and close your eyes and just notice how you feel. One of the things that I'm noticing is that my breath is a little easier now than it was at the beginning of the practice, and we haven't even done breath work yet. I know, Joy, that's so sad. Nobody's paying any attention to you, poor thing. Okay, so now let's draw some attention to the belly. Allow the belly to expand with your inhale. And pull the belly button back with your exhale. Push the belly out with the inhale. Pull it in with the exhale. And now we begin to add some movement in the spine. So with the inhale, arch the back, look up, seated cow. Exhale, push away, belly back, seated cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. And come back to neutral. So you can do any variation on seated cat and cow when you're, back in your doctor's office or in the airport. You can use that action to help. So deep breathing helps increase your circulation, and particularly your circulation to your brain, which gives you more energy. And when you're on doctor time and you have no idea how long you're going to be sitting there, it's nice to have awareness of things that you can do in that pretty restricted environment that are going to help you feel better. Okay, so now we're going to look at a little bit of a hamstring. Try not to kick the cat. I'm sitting towards the front of the chair. Legs are straighter now. Not completely straight, but pretty straight. And I'm going to fold at the hip hinge until my hamstrings say, hello, here I am. And that's enough. This is not about going down and hugging your toes. This is just about getting a little hamstring stretch. And if your hamstrings are particularly tight, this might not be much of a forward fold, and that's fine. Nobody's watching. You're on video. You're in your own living room or wherever you are. You don't have anybody to judge you, so you're just going to explore. The goal of our practice is to feel better when we get up than we did sitting down, so that's going to happen. And the hamstrings are muscles, but they also have tendinous origin insertion into the bony bits. So the tendons don't stretch very much. But if we have a little bit more elasticity and strength in the muscles, then the tendons aren't under as much strain. That's a good thing. And sit back up. So legs stay pretty straight. And I'm going to cross the left leg over the right. Legs are still pretty straight. And then come forward any amount. And this will be a smaller amount, probably. And notice that changes where you feel a stretch. Feet stay flexed to protect your knees. So hopefully you're also getting something on the outer hip, on your IT band, possibly on this IT band. It's up to, your body is going to say something, and what your body says, that's what you need to pay attention to. It's not about what I'm telling you, it's about what your body is telling you. And come up, uncross your legs, wiggle around a little bit. And now cross the right ankle over the left knee and come forward. And notice how this is different. Isn't that interesting? And come up, uncross your legs, bend your knees, wiggle around a little bit. So notice that even though we're still sitting in a chair, we're still getting a lot done. Today's practice isn't going to be so much about strength, it's about awareness and releases. Okay, now we are going to look at, this is about strength, so we're going to look at some more arm stuff. So for starters, arms out to the side, palms face down. And so look at your arms. You'd like them to be fairly straight out from your shoulders. And now palms face up. I know that my camera isn't getting my hands, but I have my palms facing up. And then palms down. Isn't that interesting? Palms up. Now, notice what happens to your shoulder blades on your back when your palms are up. See how that seats your shoulder blades down the back? And when you roll the palms down, it tends to roll the shoulder blades up and away from each other. Palms up. Palms down. Palms up. Fold your elbows, let your shoulders rest for a minute, shake them around a little bit. This is also an action that we tend not to do in everyday life. And as a result, our arms are not strong in that position, unless you're a male gymnast and you do iron cross a lot, which none of the above for me. All right, so now we're going to look at cactus arms. So upper arms are straight out to the side. The forearms are perpendicular to the floor. And now you're going to rotate down into reverse cactus arms. And you may not go all the way down. I certainly don't. And one of my arms goes down a whole lot more than the other. I've got some right rotator cuff stuff. And then rotating up. So this is great therapy for rotator cuff. This is important to do. It's not my favorite for sure, but it's important that I do this because the rotator cuff area isn't very strong. And if there's rotator cuff scarring, which is what I have, that it can get really tight and then it doesn't work. And then other parts of the muscles have to take the strain and they're probably not strong either. So this is just important for the health of the shoulders. Not my favorite, but I do it. And I find it very tiring. My shoulders get tired when I do this. And they get tired because they're not strong. Fold the elbows into your side. Let your hands rest on your thighs. Close your eyes and notice how you feel. Notice the impact of these actions that we've been playing with. Isn't that interesting? And open your eyes. All right, so now I'm going to draw the left arm across the body, support it with the right arm at the elbow. So my palm is facing the back of the room right now. The weight of my arm is supported by my right hand. So this is drawing that left shoulder blade away from the midline of the body. So this is about really allowing the shoulder blade to move. This action is called excursion. So I'm letting the shoulder blade have a little journey. And I keep that shoulder down. It wants to crawl up towards the ear and I want to keep it down. And then let that arm fold and release. Right arm straight, coming across the body, supporting the weight of the arm with my left arm. Right shoulder comes down, but the shoulder blade is wrapping around the outside of the rib cage here. So I'm doing this action after having done an action that makes the rotator cuff area a little tired. So I'm going to get a little bit more mobility here because the muscles are a little fatigued. And then let that elbow come down, shake the shoulders around. And my shoulders sound like snap, crackle, pop, which is fine. That means things are moving. Okay, we haven't done much for the trunk, so let's do that. So again, coming towards the front of your chair, knees are a little straight. They're not completely straight. I'm way away from the back of the chair, and now I'm going to lean back, but not onto the back of the chair. And notice that you don't have to go back very far for the front of your body to kick in and say, I better support the body. So you can have the hands on your thighs, you can have them resting on your belly. Whatever's comfortable for you is fine. And so I want to have the thighs as released as possible. I don't want the thighs to be doing this work. I want the work to be happening on the whole front side of the body here. And by golly, that's what I'm feeling. Quivering is normal. So this would be a seated boat pose, Navasana. So if this is like super easy, you can lift your feet. Navasana, here we go. Shaking is normal. Breath should stay fairly easy. Even though the diaphragm is involved in this, you should still be able to breathe fairly easily. And then place the feet on the floor, come forward, rest your elbows on your knees, look down, and take a rest. And now come back up. Knees come wide now. Hands are no longer on your thighs. So you're going to let your hands be supported away from your body and come to lean forward without support from your back. So the gaze follows your trunk. This is not a rounding. This is just a tipping forward. And notice that that activates your back body. Makes it easier to pet the cat. That's very important to some of us. Right, Joy? Right? Miss Joyful? Again, breath stays easy. And come up. Feet come together a little bit. Close your eyes, rest your hands on your thighs, and just notice how you feel. Isn't that interesting? You know, we can have a complete practice in a chair. And we have one more really fun one to do. You'll like this one. Warning, if you have low blood pressure, you may not want to do this one, but if it's okay, this is a really lovely one. So legs are really wide now, knees are still bent, and you're going to come down between your thighs. Have your hands resting on something. If you don't reach the floor, put your hands on your legs someplace. Let the head hang. Isn't that nice? So here we are seated, and we have an inversion. So we've put the heart higher than the head, and that's an inversion. Inversions are very invigorating to the body. They increase circulation to the head, to the brain. Maybe there's a hip opening happening also. Don't know. Could be. There's a little cat petting happening. And then very slowly, walk your hands up, come up slowly, head comes up last. Because this lowers your blood pressure. And that can be a very useful thing to remember. If you have a need to lower your blood pressure, I'm not going to say in a hurry, but pretty quickly, an inversion will do that. And this is a very simple inversion that doesn't require anything exotic. We're going to look a little bit more at inversions in our next practice. But for now, this is a very accessible inversion. So we're going to do that again just because it's so nice. So you already know where we're going. You know how it feels. Hello. That's It's hard to invert when there's a cat in your lap. So I'm going to have to evict the cat. That's very sad.
So maybe you come down a little bit more this time. Maybe not, and that's fine too. Just notice. This can feel really amazing for the low back. And now walk your hands up, come up slowly, head comes up last.
Notice how you feel. Okay, we've got some more hip openers to play with. I know, you want me to play with you. All right, so you're gonna come all the way off to the left side of your mat, of your chair, so the left seat bone is not supported. Hold on to the side of the chair, maybe the front of the chair. Let that left thigh hang down. So I don't really want my knee to touch the ground. It wouldn't be hard for me. I'm tall. It wouldn't be hard for me to stand on that knee. But I'm interested in a passive stretch for the front of the thigh. So belly button comes back, pelvis is neutral. I'm just looking for a passive psoas opening. Remember, the psoas is this long, skinny guy that originates on the front of the spine at the area of the low ribs, crosses the hip joint, and inserts on the inside of the femur of the thigh bone. And it's a very important internal, really deep muscle. It's a structural, postural muscle. And if it gets too tight, that results in back pain. So this is a really nice passive psoas stretch. If we wanted an active psoas stretch, we could do a lunge, low lunge, high lunge, warrior one. Those are all active psoas stretches. This one I want to be a simple gravity stretch. Belly button stays back, lower back is flat, not arched. And you can put your hand back there and notice if it's flat or arched. So you want to make sure that you're taking the arch out of it by bringing the pelvis back into a neutral position. And now to come out, lean to the right, draw that leg forward. So both legs are straight. Again, wiggle around a little bit. And then scoot over to the right side of your chair. Let the right thigh rest down. Taking support from the chair. This is not supposed to be a balance practice. So you want to let the chair help you with balance. And you're just allowing that to be a passive gravity stretch. Opening the front of the thigh, opening the psoas. And notice that one side is always different. Pelvis comes back, belly button comes back, seat bones go forward a little bit. Just allowing that gravity stretch. So what also helps this to be a psoas stretch is this front leg stabilizes the pelvis. Okay, so it prevents this action from just taking your whole pelvis with you. So the object is to separate the pelvis from the thigh bone. So allowing that angle to be more open. And the reason that it gets closed is the psoas is a hip flexor. It's the primary hip flexor. And it's a very deep postural muscle. So it works really hard and it works behind the scenes, so we're not aware of it because it's so deep. I mean, we're often aware of the front of the thigh. If you go and just do a lot of squats, deep knee bends, what complains is your thighs, the front of your thigh. But the behind behind the scenes guy is SOS. He's really deep. He's on the fourth order of muscles. He's directly onto the bones. And now lean to the left, draw that leg forward. Come back to the center of your chair. Still not into the back of the chair, so I'm a little towards the front of it. I'm certainly not on the back. And we're going to repeat the twist that we did in the beginning. So left hand to the right thigh, right hand behind you, and it could be on the back of the chair. That's a fine place for it. So allowing that twist to originate inside the pelvis, come up through the low back, come up into the upper back, and complete before it gets to the neck. Release, come back to neutral, and then right hand to the left thigh, left hand behind you. Your nose stays out of the twist. And release, come back to neutral. So now recheck and make sure that your feet are under your knees, seat bones are grounded, let your hands rest on your thighs. We're going to do a seated Shavasana today. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. I'm going to recommend that you stay out of the back of the chair, but if that's what your body wishes to do, you can do that. Make sure that your neck is stacked on top of your rib cage. Allow your eyes to rest in the bottom of the socket. Let your brain be quiet in the bottom of the skull. Facial features are soft. Your tongue rests in the bottom of your mouth. Jaw slightly parted. Your neck is free and long. Collarbones are wide. Shoulder blades are heavy. Let your upper arms hang. Elbows are heavy. Hands are grounded on your thighs. Feel your rib cage expand with your breath. The ribs moving around your spinal cord, around your spinal column. Lower back is in a neutral position. Belly fills and empties with your breath. Pelvis is neutral. Feel the weight even on both seat bones. Thighs are heavy and relaxed. Feet are grounded. Notice how your body feels as a result of your practice today. Notice any areas of openness or softness. And take a deeper breath. Bring your hands together, rub your palms together to generate warmth. Place your palms over your closed eyes. Open your eyes into the darkness and return your hands to heart center. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. Namaste. I'm so happy that you came to join us today. And please pay attention to how you feel for the rest of the day. Let me know how you feel about the practice. You can post comments or whatever you'd like. I really appreciate you coming today. Namaste.